Jesus way,
oh, the Jesus way,
is the way of peace.
is the way of peace.
Oh, the Jesus way,
Oh, the Jesus way,
is the way of peace.
is the way of peace.
Oh, the Jesus way is the way of peace. When he is king, all wars will cease. May his peace begin with me. I'm gonna beat my sword
Gonna beat my sword.
into a...
The year was 1946, and it was less than a year after World War II had ended. It was a time when the Seagoing Cowboys were instrumental in assisting many Europeans to recover from a devastating war. Hello, I'm Brent Carlson, and welcome to Brethren Voices. Our January 2009 program featured an interview with Peggy Rife Miller, who has combined much information, stories, and photographs about these heroes of the past. There were over 7,000 men and boys over 16 who accompanied livestock to Europe and China to help in the rebuilding process after the war. We are very fortunate to have one of those seagoing cowboys with us today. He is Paul Libby of Portland, Oregon. Paul is 87 years old and was a seagoing cowboy many years ago when he was 24 years old and accompanied livestock to Poland a year following World War II. The Church of the Brethren recruited these men and boys. The age limit was 16. You had to be 16 to make the journey. Many of these boys and men had never been out of their own state, but they knew how to take care of livestock. Paul's story actually started many years earlier when his parents were medical missionaries to China. His father was a doctor and ran a hospital in Wuhu, China. Paul, it's wonderful to have you with us on Brethren Voices.
Thank you. I appreciate the honor that the brethren are taking on my story to record for the future. Thank you.
Way beyond my life, Paul had a notable history and a wonderful beginning. His parents were medical missionaries in China, and his father ran a hospital in China. Wuhu, China?
Yes, that was one.
One of the places?
Nanchang Hospital, other one.
Nanchai?
Nanchang.
Nanchang
Yeah.
Hospital. And they were there from 1916 to 1924?
Yep.
His mother returned to the United States briefly to have Paul, and he was born...
Jim.
She came back for Jim also?
Yeah.
Your older brother or younger
Yep.
brother?
The older brother.
Okay. So Paul's mother came back to the United States to have his brother
Los Angeles.
in Los Angeles to give birth to him, and then she came back again in 1922 to give birth to Paul in Los Angeles. But Paul's younger sister, Alice, was born in China in 1924, and soon after that, the family moved back to the United States. Paul's father was a doctor and also a hospital administrator. And soon after that, Paul went to Willamette University, where he met his wife in 1940. And then, in the middle of World War II, he was drafted. But Paul had a very deep conviction that going to war was not what he should do as a Christian, and he became a conscientious objector to the war, and he did alternate service for 3 years in 3 different places. First stationed in Walport, Oregon, he planted trees after the Shiloh burn, and then a year later he was transferred to Chicago. Was that the next place?
Columbus.
Columbus, Ohio,
Mental Hospital.
where he worked in a mental hospital. He also went part-time to Ohio State University while he was in Columbus. And then on his 3rd year of community service, he was transferred to Chicago, where he worked at the Catholic Alexian Brothers Hospital. And then, after the war, he learned about the United Nations and Church of the Brethren program to send farm stock to Europe, because so many of the animals on the farms in Europe had been killed by the bombing and starvation and just killed for food. And as a result of that, he was one of the first people to join the Seagoing Cowboys that was given birth to by Dan West and the United Nations Committee on Relief and Habilitation. And he went with a group of fellows to Poland on one of the victory ships. The victory ship was called Past Christian Victory Ship. And you were in the Coast Guard as well?
That's what they put
That's
me
what
in.
they put you in that to go on the
Seagoing
ship?
Cowboys were listed in the Coast Guard.
As the Coast Guard, I'll be darned. Wonderful.
I forgot to show you that, sorry.
And we're going to show you some pictures because we've been looking through some of his photo albums that gives all kinds of information. And he has pictures and postcards going back to China and to his working and planting trees in Walport and then being in Chicago at the Alexian Hospital. Just wonderful pictures. Also has many pictures of the ship and the trip to Poland in 1946. And it took about a month to get there. And
I'm not sure I remember all those facts accurately, but pretty close.
well, more or less a month. And then they were there a month, escorting the cows to the local farms of the Polish people who got the cows. And then after a month in Poland, you came back on the same ship. And
Got seasick.
And you got seasick more than once or just once?
I don't remember whether I was seasick all the way back, but I
you did
remember
get
being sick.
Well, I think the Atlantic can be pretty rough at times. So then, that trip, you arrived in after a month.
Oh.
You arrived in, where did you arrive? Where was your port of entry?
Danzig.
Danzig.
They call it Gdansk.
Gdansk, Poland.
That's the Polish, if I understand
Polish-
correctly.
it's the Polish seaport.
word for that, yeah.
Okay.
And along the way, we went through the Kiel Canal, and there was a great big ship upside down in the Kiel.
Floating in the water?
Upside down
Upsi-
in
up-
the water.
upside
Yep,
down.
Yep.
That must have been a ship that was sunk in the war.
Yeah, and a lot of the buildings had holes in them and destroyed big piles of brick down because most of the buildings were built of brick, and they were all over the streets and all that stuff after the war.
So even a year after the war, it was actually over longer than it because the war in Europe had ended, I believe, in 1944.
Yeah.
And in fact, we have some pictures we're going to show on the screen of the pictures that you have taken on the trip and also in Poland when you arrived. And we also have some pictures of farms that you visited when you took the cows.
That's really
And we can see lots of destruction and the ruins of the buildings, which we'll show you. Because that must have been quite a sight to see.
Oh.
And it probably disturbed you a lot to see how much devastation there was.
We were mostly conscious of cattle, trying to take care of them a lot, get them to where they should. People could take care of them and use them to feed their families.
Were the people in Poland, the farmers, happy to get the cows?
Yes, very much. One of the things that really bothered me, I don't know whether this goes over this or not, but was that so many of the women were selling their bodies for a pack of cigarettes because that was the only way they could feed their families.
Well, you actually got to see
So
that
some
kind
of them
sadness.
offered themselves to the people on the ship.
Aye.
It was,
They would do anything to feed their families
yeah.
and keep their children alive.
And that was the result of the war.
Of the war, yes.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember any particular farm or family that you met that received the cows? And
you think about that. 46 is a long time ago.
a little bit ago.
And so I halfway remember, but it's very difficult to describe them, But I do remember some children and some parents and farms, and they came out and led the cows into their barn. A lot of the barns were built out of brick and that kind of thing, and they were very low, nothing like our barns.
Did you have anyone to help translate from Polish to English?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But some of the people that drove the truck and loaded with cows did speak. Were the people that owned the farms, and
they could speak some English.
Some of them could speak English, if I remember correctly.
Did you have you had a full-time job? How many cowboys were with you, taking care of the 700 cows?
Well, there's a picture in there of a whole group of them.
Of the whole group?
Yeah.
Well, I was looking at that. There's not too many of you.
Well,
looks like there's maybe about 20.
Where is that picture? I think it's toward the end of that. It was a farewell group.
That group at the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was one farewell group.
We'll count them.
Yeah. There, see? 30, I think, but I can't remember for sure.
Well, there's not 30 in that picture.
No.
Maybe 25. But you think 30?
I
25
think
or 30?
So. I don't know whether that includes the ship operators or not. See, I don't think that's the group that took the cattle over.
Okay.
And here's another one, and here's a few of us. Journey's End.
So you had a full-time job taking care of the cows?
Yeah.
Did you have to milk them?
No, they hadn't bred. What happened to ours was the saddest thing I've ever seen. All the cattle lost their babies because it was so rough on the ocean.
Ah.
Well,
I had heard that the heifers had been bred so that if the timing was right, they would actually give birth to their calves in Europe.
That's right.
But the ship was delayed,
Yeah.
so the calves were born on the ship, and they didn't make it. They didn't survive the ship.
It was so sad.
Well, I'm glad you said most of the cows, the mothers made it.
Yeah, all of them did.
All of it. Well, see, so that there was some good to do
There was
there.
some good.
And then, hopefully they could breed them.
They
of course,
did breed them, as I understood it. They did breed them
when they arrived in Poland.
When they arrived in Poland. Yeah.
So where did the ship that you took, this past Christian victory ship, where did that leave from?
I think it left from Norfolk,
Norfolk, Virginia?
somewhere down there.
Did you receive any training? Did they train you
No.
about what to do?
No.
You just took your background from the farm and
Yeah, and I think a lot of the others had some
Training
training. It wasn't. We just had to feed them and take care of them and change them, keep them clean, fairly clean.
and change the bedding.
Add straw.
How many cows were there?
There were 700 aboard the ship.
Wow, and you told me these were Holstein?
Yeah, they were all Holsteins.
Holsteins give a lot of milk, and
Yeah,
they're
they
pretty
get a lot of
sturdy.
milk. Then milk is not as rich as the
As the
jerseys
Jersey,
and
yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, but the Holsteins are also a little bigger.
Yeah, they're bigger.
700.
And I think they're tougher too, but I'm not sure.
Well, if they all made it, they were pretty tough.
No.
When did your day begin on the ship? And did you sleep with the cows, or did you have your own room, bedroom?
Oh, we had our own group in the back of the ship, and that's why I got so sick, because the back of the ship would go up like that when we went home terribly.
Had you ever been on a big ship before?
Yeah.
You had.
I've been
Coming
in-
over from China.
Yeah, China. I've been across the Pacific about 6 times and across the Atlantic about 4.
Oh my, you were a world traveler.
And I went through Europe at one time when the Nazis were coming on, and I was a 15-year-old kid at that time, and I was curious about the train, so I went up and poked my nose in the train, and the guards started hollering at me, and they threatened to take me to jail. My older brother talked about it.
Well, I'm glad they didn't take you, and you're probably lucky they didn't take you.
Yeah,
Too.
Yeah.
So but some of the guys in the gang of farm
People.
cowboys,
Yeah.
seagoing cowboys, they had probably never been on a ship before.
No, I don't think so.
You were probably one of the most experienced.
I don't know whether any. We didn't really get very well acquainted. I didn't know whether any of them were brethren or
Okay.
people from different churches. I suspect some of them were, but
It sounds like you were pretty busy.
yeah.
We will continue with Paul's wonderful story about Christian love in action in a moment. You will find many brethren and others in Christian service for peace in BVS. And what is BVS? We now have a message from Brethren Volunteer Services.
This is a world full of options. It's like a never-ending buffet line. While all that I'm really needing is living water and the bread of life. So as I'm walking through this life, making choices, there is one thing I must never forget. This land of opportunity has one God. If I seek Him first, He'll take care of the rest. I can live like a prisoner, not all that could be. I'm living in the land of opportunity, but a heart pure and simple is a heart that stays free. Living in the land of opportunity, I'm living in the land of opportunity. So many choices, so much to do. Seeking first the kingdom of God. Living in the land of opportunity. Yeah. Seeking first the kingdom of God. Seeking first the kingdom.
What happened that you were a conscientious objector? How did that come about?
The best way I could explain it is when I was 14, I decided to follow what Jesus led me to do. And because of the way the Bible talks about listening to the Holy Spirit, my family did that. And we were mostly Methodist, but beyond that. And that's what led me to follow Jesus in the way He never killed anybody. And He said we shouldn't. And yet every time He ran into evil, He said no to it.
Mm-hmm. You know, for the Church of the Brethren, conscientious objection is a very common thing.
Yeah.
We support it very strongly. But for the Methodist Church, I think it must have been a little unusual.
There weren't very many of us.
There were not.
John Schweibert and some of my other friends are, well, John, I admire him a lot because he refused to pay the military tax.
Oh, yes.
And he fought the Methodist retirement fund when the government took money away from the retirement fund.
Because of him?
Yes, because he refused to pay it, and the retirement fund said they had to follow the government.
Oh.
And he, I don't know all about that, but it showed me he had a lot of guts.
So you applied to be a conscientious objector, and then when you received your CO status, they sent you to Walport to plant trees?
Yes. But one of the things I'd like to add before that is because we were living on my grandpa's, my mother's brother's farm.
Your uncle?
My uncle.
On your mother's side?
Yeah, on my mother's side. That he knew the draft people, and they asked him if I was honest.
If you were true.
If I were true. And he told them they did, so I had no trouble getting my
they didn't give you a hard time?
No, they just accepted what I had written.
Well, that's because you had true integrity.
Yeah, because he knew what I was.
Mm-hmm. So, from Walport, you went to Columbus, Ohio.
Yes.
Did they transfer you, or did you have to find another assignment?
No, I don't remember whether I applied to that or whether some other friends were going there and I learned about it and applied to change.
Okay.
Because I wanted to do more of the plant trees. I didn't think planting trees was the same as what the military had to do.
Oh, yes. But you ended up in Chicago in 1945.
Yeah.
And actually, you got married
Yep.
in 1945.
Just after my wife graduated from Willamette.
From Willamette. She stayed in Oregon to graduate, and then she joined you in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then how did you hear about this Seagoing Cowboy project to send cattle to Poland?
I think I can't remember the name of the group that did it, but they sent animals all over the world, chickens and bees and cows. And I think I started hearing it from them, and I don't remember how I got there. It's so long ago, partly, and yet I knew a lot about the Brethren and Amish and all that people.
But you were also familiar with farm life.
Yes.
Because you knew about your uncle's farm, and
yeah.
So you'd been around cows
and we moved to a farm just outside of Salem with 100 acres, and we changed it from a grade C dairy to a grade A dairy, and I thought I wanted to be a dairyman.
A dairyman.
But I found it was too much work, and I wanted to deal with how I changed the world.
Mm-hmm. You wanted to make a difference.
I wanted to make it. And when I came back from China, I decided to be a peacemaker for the United States rather than going back to China, even with my language and the experience.
That's right. You speak fluent Chinese.
Yeah. 我还可以说一点中国话。
谢谢。
不客气。
I do want to give you a chance to read this statement of faith that you have, because I know it's very important and it's very deeply meaningful to you. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Okay, if I can.
If you start here and then you go to here at the end, that will be very, very good.
I pulled this out of the Progressive Christian about 10 years ago, and since my wife has gotten so sick, it sustained both of us. And the faith she has and the faith I have combines. And it's the life of the man named Jesus offered us an example, a model of how we can live. And it also becomes clear that Jesus was and is more than an example. There were many holy men and healers in Jesus' day, as there have been many since. Yet something about this human being has kept his name and his story alive for 2,000 years. In some ways beyond comprehension, and it's way beyond my comprehension, beyond facile explanation, the spirit of this God intoxicated, and I like that word, then lives on. And if his life offers us an example. His living Spirit offers us sustaining strength, and it does for Mary and I. This is the heart of Christian teaching. This is the permanent. All else is transient. Then I have a statement here from the Essenes that I think is the birth of the Catholic trilogy. The Heavenly Father is love. The earthly mother is love. The Son of Man is love.
And I'll say amen to that.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in with Brethren Voices. We're very happy to have shared today with Paul Libby, one of the original Seagoing Cowboys. Until our next program, we invite you to be a Christian in action. Until then, peace.
Jesus way
Is the way of peace.
is the way of peace.
Oh, the Jesus way
Oh, the Jesus way
is the way of peace.
is the way of peace.
Oh, the Jesus way is the way of peace. When he is king, all wars will cease. May his peace begin with me. Gonna beat my sword
Gonna beat my sword
into a plow.
into a plow.
Gonna beat my sword
Gonna beat my sword
into a plow.
into a plow.
Gonna beat my sword into a plow. Christ is king in my life now. May his peace begin with me. Oh, the Jesus way
Oh, the Jesus way
is the way of peace.
is the way of peace.
Oh, the Jesus way
Oh, the Jesus way
is the way of peace.
is the way of peace.
Oh, the Jesus way is the way of peace. When he is king, all wars will cease. May his peace begin with me. All those who tread
All those who tread
the path he trod,
the path he trod.
all those who tread
All those who tread
the path he trod,
the path he trod.
all those who tread the path he trod shall be called the friends of God. May his peace begin with me. Oh, the Jesus way
Oh, the Jesus way
is the way of peace.
is the way of peace.
Oh, the Jesus way
Oh, the Jesus way
is the way of peace.
is the way of peace.
Oh, the Jesus way is the way of peace. When he is king, all wars will cease. May his peace begin with me.